Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get Right with DigiByte. My name is Mike, and it's another fantastic day on the DigiByte blockchain. I'm so excited for today's guests. Joining us are core members of the DigiByte development team, Jared Tate and Yoshi Yeager. Also joining us from the DigiByte Foundation and the DigiByte awareness team is Rutger. And also joining us is DigiByte community member, Johnny Law. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today on Get Right with DigiByte. How's everyone doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Everything is fine. Nice
to I'm super excited to be here. What a great looking group of guys right here. Come on now.
Yeah, it's a good group.
Yeah, we all got the DigiByte heart, so that's great.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, we got a lot to talk about today, so let's just jump right into it. Of course, the big news is the release of DigiByte version 8.22. And Jared, let's start with you. If you could share with us your thoughts on this momentous occasion.
Well, this is a huge milestone for the community and us as developers and everyone. As a lot of you know, this has been probably the longest we've ever worked on a release, which is a great thing. During the course of this 8.22 development process, we've had a lot of important changes to the process of DigiByte development itself. And I think these changes that have been implemented over the last year and a half to 2 years are very important for the longevity of DigiByte. And the biggest key to that is, the peer review process. Basically, with you go to GitHub, which is where developers live, and the DigiByte core repository, which is where all this work is happening that anybody in the world can look at any time. There's been a whole new set of guidelines and a process that has been implemented that we've been following. And the important thing about that is multiple peer reviews and no one single person being able to commit directly to the core protocol of DigiByte without reviews of other developers. So that really takes any one single person out of I guess the centralization aspect of development. And as people come and go into the future, it's important that there's a set of guidelines, for how this process can be carried out well into the future. But besides that, we're talking about a release that has changed over 283,000 lines of code. And we're talking C++ here, which is a very highly complex technical language in a blockchain. So there's a lot going on, a lot of important benefits, a lot of important features, and stuff that just makes DigiByte better overall. So, we can go more into that, but, that's kind of the quick intro there.
Nice. And Yoshi, I know you've been a core developer with DigiByte for a number of years now. In your experience over those years, what really stands out to you with this release versus work you've done on in the past?
Oh, well, I think Jared already highlighted what was one of the main issues before. It was the direct commit to GitHub. And that caused, I think, a few issues that we now had to fix. And also that we now have the complete functional and unit test suite finished and completed. It gives me a lot of confidence that this time the release will be very solid. And that makes me very happy. It was a lot of work that we all have had to input there, and yeah, now it's ready. So we are better than ever, right?
Yeah. To highlight on what Yoshi just said about those tests, in the past, yes, we've tested before releases, but the level of automation for testing is better than like any manual person can do running through just basically trying to test all the functionality of the protocol and the core wallet itself. Basically, there's 215 separate coded tests that basically go through all aspects of functionality of the blockchain, whether it's formulating a transaction and sending it, whether it's creating a new block and mining it, whether it's basically creating a new public key or a private key. There's all these various functions in a blockchain that are very complicated, it's very hard to manually test. And so, amazing. And Yoshi's been the amazing lead on that. I can't thank you enough for all the work you've done there.
Thank you so much. It was especially testing invalid data and invalid transactions. I think it's really focusing on the invalid stuff, and also the correct, of course. But the invalid stuff was, now we are sure that things that are not allowed to happen will not happen. So this is now completely automated tests that check that, and we are on the safe side now. We were there before, but of course now we have the confidence just written in code.
That's
That's
awesome,
And
and that's
nice.
that's
also
very
for
important.
for future developers, right? It makes it a
Yeah.
lot easier to check your work, right? So
Yeah, because you can basically start it, and if one of these tests fails, you're like, "Hey, the change I just made, that's affecting something else I never thought of," and it's important, and that happens all the time.
yeah, absolutely.
Now, Jared, you've been very active recently with your own YouTube channel, providing updates for the community, and we'll put some links down below in the description to those videos. And I believe it was in part 3, you were discussing the difference between a soft fork and a hard fork. So this version is what is known as a soft fork. Is that correct?
Yes, there is no absolute hard fork, and basically the features and upgrades that are added, which I do go through in greater detail in my videos, is basically the Taproot upgrade. And that'll happen basically at whatever period of time when the majority of the network has upgraded and the consensus is there. So it's hard to say when that'll happen. It's going to be quite a ways out into the future. I think there's a year and a half window.
Okay.
So
And what are some things that members of the community, whether we just have a core wallet, or we're running a node, or we work for an exchange or a wallet, what are some things that need to be done on that end in order to incorporate these latest upgrades to the blockchain?
Well, I guess just to summarize, I'd like to go into kind of 5 main benefits that I see with this version. Rule number one, or not rule number one, benefit number one, as we just talked about, is absolutely the new development process with these automated tests that make future development much easier and help us basically debug much easier. Number two, for the end user, a really important part of this upgrade in the core wallet is actually the multi-wallet feature. And we're talking the core wallet feature. And for any of you out there who have run the core wallet with multiple wallet.dat files in the past, it's been a pain to manage multiple wallet.dat files. So wallet.dat in the core DigiByte wallet is basically where your private keys are stored. And if you're running an exchange or some sort of wallet platform, this new functionality where within the core wallet you can call up different wallet.dats without having to close the client, swap the wallet.dat out, and then reopen it, I think is huge for various applications and for users. For instance, like on my own wallet, I have my personal DigiByte wallet, then I have a testing wallet, and then I have some multi-sig wallets, and there's a lot of functionality that's gained by that. That's probably the biggest thing that people are going to see in the GUI itself. Is there's a little drop down in the upper right hand corner, and you can switch between wallets. So you could make a wallet for every member of your family. You could make a savings wallet and a spending wallet. You can make as many wallets as you want. Now for an exchange, this is also important for security and for other reasons and things you can do. It just makes it easier. There's also in 8.22, we have removed replace by fee, which is another GUI change that you're going to see. But outside of that, most of the changes are in the code. And like I said, 283,000 lines of code have been changed. So that brings me to the third biggest point. All computer code is built, every app you use is built using libraries from other open source code that is built and maintained by other developers. And those libraries are built in computer programming languages that they themselves are updated as time goes on. So a lot of the changes that have happened, basically in the last 5-6 years is actually changes in the C++ computer language itself. And so there are a ton of modernization things that have changed in 8.22 to help us be up to speed with the core dependencies and libraries that DigiByte is built on. And that's just a fact of life for software development, because you don't want things to get too outdated with the languages and libraries themselves that it causes problems down the road. And for any developer out there that does this, it's quite the pain. Quite often, we're having to update stuff every 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, 6 months, because that's how often dependencies are changing, and it causes lots of issues. And as security vulnerabilities or other issues, which I'm not saying there's any big ones that we're aware of, but improvements happen in these underlying libraries. We get to benefit from those updates, and there's a tremendous amount of that has happened. So those are three things. The fourth thing is um, basically when we're talking about Taproot and Schnorr signatures. So it's basically a new way of creating and summarizing the way that public key signatures. I don't want to get too detailed. There's a lot of further explanations out there, but it basically makes DigiByte more efficient. We're able to gain and compact more transactions in a smaller area, and protecting that on-chain space is the most important thing we can do to help DigiByte be scalable into the future. And number five most important thing is basically we're fixing some issues that we've had in the past. Whether that's some minor issues with the GUI, whether that's some minor issues with some other things, but then stuff like the supply curve. There was an issue where in the year 2035, the supply curve would not go directly to zero like it should. So there's only 21 billion. And the issue was a single line of code made it to where DigiByte would always have a block reward of at least one DigiByte. Well, that's now fixed, and so people can say DigiByte is absolutely hard capped. So we put that issue to rest. So those are the five main issues. There's a lot of or not issues but benefits for me. There's a lot of other benefits, but we could be here all day going into technical nitty gritty detail.
Well, that's
So,
great.
can I ask a question, Jared, about number 4, the Taproot? Because we all hear about the Ordinals at the moment on Bitcoin and Litecoin. How can we make sure that the DigiByte blockchain will not get filled up with the Ordinals?
Well, so that's a very important question. And for those that may not be familiar with this issue, currently what's happening after the launch this last fall of Ordinals, which is effectively NFTs on Bitcoin directly on chain, what's happening is the application is filling up Bitcoin transactions and Bitcoin blocks with these effectively JPEGs. Well, the idea of storing media or content or files directly on a decentralized blockchain is a really bad idea, because like if you try to store a feature, a full-length feature film that's gigabytes of data, that would be absolutely disastrous and very expensive, but it could be done in chunks. That's a really bad idea. What is a good idea is taking the cryptographic representation or hash of that data and then validating it on a blockchain. And that's really, like, when we talk about anchoring data in the blockchain, that's really what we're talking about. Not storing the human readable version of that data directly in front of us. That's where layer twos should come in. And that's why, when we started DigiAssets, we're like, hey, we should have the verification embedded in the blockchains, but we shouldn't be carrying the human readable files. I mean, just think about it. If everybody took all the data and photos and videos and music that they have on their own computers and all tried to put it on a blockchain, I mean, you'd be talking about billions of terabytes, right? That's just not going to happen. And conceptually, it's just the wrong way to look at it. So, our approach to Taproot is to make sure that we're not going to be able to allow spamming to occur with SegWit and with Taproot, like we're starting to see with Bitcoin and Litecoin. And that's done through limiting the size and the amount that can actually be, implemented with each one of those transactions.
Awesome, great. That's really great to hear. And indeed, totally believe in the way that DigiAssets work. I think that in the end is the only proper way to use the blockchain for NFTs and authentication of any electronic content out there. So great job.
All right, so just to clarify, you guys were able to implement elements of the Taproot into the latest upgrade, but you were able to make some adjustments to prevent people from essentially putting ordinals on DigiByte.
Well, they can still put the cryptographic representation of an ordinal on there to verify its authenticity and to prove it. But that's all that matters, right? But the actual human readable data that loads up on your phone, we're taking steps to make sure that those literal JPEGs are not embedded in the DigiByte blockchain.
Gotcha. All right, Johny, let me jump to you now, because I know as a community member, I know you've been very active, out front as well as behind the scenes. So share with us your thoughts about this latest upgrade release.
No, I truly appreciate you guys taking the time to kind of explain from your perspective, like what it accomplishes and all the work that's gone in to the, I think, 283,000 lines of code that you work through. I do have a couple of questions pertaining. You mentioned the open source libraries that we pull from, right, to bring into our chain and build on top of. I'm assuming that many pieces of what you all have built and unit tested are things of that nature. So sometimes you're actually working through and doing tests on other people's code. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a good way of kind of looking at it. And we're also benefiting from the work that other developers have done in other software libraries as well. So, when we talk about how many people are really contributing to DigiByte, there's literally hundreds, if not thousands, that maybe they may not be aware that it's directly code in DigiByte now, but they are improving and benefiting DigiByte, which is really amazing. And that's the beautiful thing about open source software. But, I'd love Yoshi's input on that too.
I just wanted to say that it's not necessarily the case, especially we are not testing libraries or whether libraries are working, but we are testing whether input data results in the expected output data. And so we are not testing the core as SQLite functionality or LevelDB functionality. But Jared was right. We are testing code of other developers' work because many people have contributed to Bitcoin, and we have their commits in our code base too. And on top of that, we have our commits. So we are testing especially those things. And then now it works quite well. So, yeah.
Love to hear it.
A good way to think about it is, if for those that may understand the process of building a house, like you go down to the local hardware store and you get the wood and the 2x4s, right? Like we're not actually building the 2x4s that we're assembling DigiByte with, but we are taking those 2x4s and helping put them in the structure that becomes DigiByte, right? And then we put the walls together, put the roof on. Well, all those different pieces are like different libraries that other people help maintain, just like there's different companies that make different pieces of the house as it comes together. That's kind of a good way to think about a software project like DigiByte.
Yeah.
I love it. Awesome. Perfect explanation.
So suppose I'm an exchange, or I'm a miner, or I'm a wallet provider. So can I just simply upgrade and do my own testing, of course? Or are there any changes also in the RPC calls or things that I have to take into account if I would just in place upgrade my wallet to the 8.22 version?
So everything, and I'm gonna preface this because there's a lot going on. You should be able to upgrade, and everything should work backwards compatibility wise. Because we still have other versions and older versions on the network and older wallets that it still needs to be backwards compatible with. So I don't know. I mean, there's literally hundreds of different platforms that have integrated DigiByte. I have no idea how their internal systems work, so I cannot speak to specifics about specific platforms. Theoretically, it should, but I would definitely encourage everyone to test it. There are additional features in the wallet that add additional functionality that I think will allow platforms to expand, if anything. Like the addition of descriptor wallets, like I said, the multi-wallet functionality, some of the changes in RPC command. There's a lot of changes in RPC commands. However, the older RPC commands should work. In any platform that's also running Bitcoin Core, they have a blueprint for how to handle those changes, and most likely have already implemented them because they all upgraded with Taproot already, right? So every single Bitcoin or platform that has Bitcoin on it, which they all do at this point in order to support Taproot, they will know what to do when it comes to, because we're basically there's no real major changes outside of those changes already there, so they're already going to be familiar with it for the most part.
Awesome.
That's actually correct. And I remember when I fixed all the functional tests, I noticed that one RPC call wasn't quite working, and that's when it was outputting the difficulties for all the different mining algorithms. Because in that part we are essentially different from Bitcoin, of course. And yeah, I noticed that not every algorithm had its difficulty put in this dictionary that was output by the RPC command. So there's improvement there going on. So, but that's only relevant for miners. And I think, as Jared said, they should test their stuff. They should not just, I don't know, take a new DigiByte release and think everything will be working, because most of the times when you do an upgrade, something is not working as you expect. So
yeah, but it should be pretty straightforward. That's the expectation.
straightforward.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
And just to clarify, everybody, I know this will come up. There is no algo fork or hard fork or algo swap in this release. Now, that doesn't mean there won't be in the future. We can't do it, but there's already so much that was changing. We kind of decided, hey, like, let's just do it in a phased approach here. Let's make sure we get this out and it's stable, and then down the road we can address, whatever the community wants to do there. But I think it's important to note that.
Yeah,
Hey,
I think
fun-
that's a prudent approach for sure. Yeah.
Everyone's talking.
Yeah. Go ahead, Yoshi.
No, I found it funny that everyone was talking simultaneously, but
Yeah.
essentially that we have this solid foundation. From there on, we can always improve. But we didn't have that before, and now we have it. It's a huge improvement. It's a huge improvement. This has to be said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's totally awesome. And I also think that, it's so great, Yoshi, that you from DigiCorp were able to take this release over the miles of over the bridge, because it was already worked on, of course, for over a year. But just to put in your time, it's great. It's really great. But I think also that it is now allowing the community to attract more developers, because it's easier for people who are not familiar per se with DigiByte to add or to create their own improvement protocols or improvement proposals. Can you guys tell us a little bit more about, okay, if I was a developer from outside the community, how can I contribute? What does the process look like? How can I create a DigiByte improvement proposal?
So yeah, one of the first things that we're actually doing here, because first of all, it's important to note we're all volunteers. We're all contributing our time and resources. We all have other work and stuff we're doing to pay the bills. And so, it's really, I want to thank DigiCorp for helping, and Yoshi for helping contribute their time, as well as others. There are others out there who are helping with various and assorted ways, and I want to thank everybody for that. One of the things we're doing to help kind of streamline communication between what's happening developers and the general public, we created a new DigiByte developer Twitter account that's at DGB devs. And the idea is several of us will have access to where basically when there's a new pull request that's made on GitHub, or some new work that's done, or a new idea, it'll be broadcast out there bigger, because a lot of this is all happening on GitHub. And I realize that the average end user probably looks at GitHub and probably doesn't, it's really can be a little bit overwhelming, especially when looks like you're looking at gibberish in a foreign language. When you look at some of this code and the different forks and how it all works together and Git, and it can be complicated. So we're trying to make an effort to streamline, to reach out, but to also to communicate, hey, here's the problems we're working on, help us out. get that out in front of more people. And that's something everybody in the community can help with is, when you see something with the at DGB devs, you can say, hey, here's the work that's being done, or here's what we need, help get the word out to others. Because I know there's a lot of people that want to help and want to contribute. They just may not know how. So, GitHub is where I guess we live. That's the developer
Yeah,
hub.
that's true.
And so kind of bridging that gap is one step. And, ideally, my goal and my dream is if we can get some sort of long-term funding figured out, whether it's through the foundation or alliance or other groups or companies, to help put up bounties for specific bits of work that we're working on. That's something I think the community can really help get involved with. So that way in the future, we can have more work being done quicker, and there's no end of work. We've already been at this for 9 years now, and there's plenty of work as technology changes and everything keeps moving forward. 9 years from now, there's a lot of work I'm sure we'll be doing.
Yeah. So guys, if you tell us a little bit more, now that version 8.22 is released, what becomes the priority for the development team as far as going forward? I know you mentioned swapping out algorithms potentially. Is that the priority, or what are some of the other aspects within the DigiByte ecosystem that you feel should be a priority next?
Well, the most important thing is to make sure all of the dependent additional infrastructure is upgraded to be compatible. Well, to make sure it's up to date with 8.22. And what I mean by that is SPV wallets, block explorers, websites. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of secondary infrastructure that needs to make sure it's all upgraded and up to date and working smoothly. Digi assets, uh, you know, and then all the services. So we have more stuff, every sequential release, and basically we're on the 8th major release of DigiByte now in 9 years. Every sequential release has become harder and harder to get everybody upgraded because there's just more people involved in the ecosystem. So it takes longer. We're in the midst of a bear market right now, so a lot of people may not be as apt and eager to jump right on it because they're overworked and understaffed, etc. But we'll get through that and keep pushing. And then for me, the next priority I think should be wherever the community wants to contribute resources. I've always believed that we've got the best blockchain out there. We just need to get it in the hands of more people through real world applications. And now that I think 8.22 is going to serve as a very stable base well into the future, we can start working on other projects like Rosetta, which is for developers, building out the developer ecosystem to allow people to much more easily build on top of DigiByte. I think is one of the most important things we can do above everything else.
Okay, so that includes like the documentation that is out there, like integration guides.
That
Thing.
kind of secondary support, wallets, block explorers, the various mining pools, obviously exchanges, anything anybody in the community runs, as well as other platforms, helping wherever we can if there's any issues that arise. I will tell, just to be perfectly frank, we have not done a release yet where there wasn't something that we had to troubleshoot. Hopefully this might be the first time we have just completely smooth sailing, but we just got to make sure that we're there if something does pop up. Although at this point, I don't think we should have any major issues.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I'm really excited to hear. You mentioned you have the new Twitter account for the developers, because I think that could be a very effective way to bring in and recruit new people into the ecosystem. So going forward, what are some things that you can see the foundation providing support for the development team going forward?
It's a tough one to because you can create expectations in that regard, which are not at the moment possible to fill in. So I think it's a little bit tricky to go that route. I think yes, of course. The intention now can be that we can set up the bounties if we do community funding for that, and that is of course a possible way forward. But it's a tough call to say, okay, now this is the next step to do, because if you don't have it in the pocket, you cannot spend it, and then you create expectations that are not being met on a short time, and that's a letdown for the community. Yeah, so I think in general terms, yes, of course, you want to be able to do that, and yeah, it's a tough one, especially now in this market, to raise the funds. Be aware of that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, when it comes, well, sorry, go ahead.
No,
I mean to
I was
cut
going
you.
to say, Rutger, I think there is an appetite for how to properly support a developer that has an idea that serves a specific need, right?
Mhm.
And so I do like the ideas of having specific bounties out there. That's not to say that each of them will be fulfilled, but if there is a clear and present need for that development, I think the community 100% will get behind it once understood. And I
Yeah.
think that will bring additional developers into the ecosystem as well.
Yeah, that's a great thing. So indeed, indeed, the proposal that is now being set up about the wallet, right? So that's one example.
Yeah,
Johnny?
I think that the DigiByte Foundation, to me, the one of the biggest things it can help with is being the point of some sort of orchestration of funding or
Mm-hmm.
bounties. It just seems like the logical place for that.
Mm-hmm.
But also the foundation, I think, has filled a very critical role that isn't development related, and that's when exchanges have a question or a problem, or different entities or groups, they have somewhere to go. One of the hardest things I personally encountered in the first few years of DigiByte was explaining to companies or corporations or groups like, hey, we're decentralized. Like, you can't come to me and have me make a partnership with, uh, a decentralized network. It just doesn't work like that. But there is a need for some sort of intermediary between, um, the decentralized blockchain itself, and then just the way our world functions on a daily basis. And the DigiByte Foundation has helped with that. The DigiByte Alliance is helping with that. The DigiByte awareness team has helped with that. So I don't think it needs to be just one group that is all put on the foundation. The beautiful thing about decentralization is various groups, various
Mm-hmm.
companies can contribute in the way that they've seen or see fit. And I would love it if multiple companies or platforms, or exchanges, say, hey, we're gonna, sponsor a developer for, 1 day a week or 2 days a month or whatever, right? It doesn't have to be just, one company or one organization, but the more organizations and groups and companies that are contributing back to the ecosystem, the healthier it becomes. And that's my one criticism I would levy on the majority of infrastructure and exchanges and other platform providers
Mm-hmm.
out there. And this isn't a problem just for DigiByte. Bitcoin is having this problem. Litecoin's having this problem. There's a lot of issues with funding Bitcoin development. And you're like, you're talking about the biggest network of them all, and they can't even pay developers. So this is a real problem I think crypto is going to have to grapple with over especially the next couple years. The beautiful thing about DigiByte is we have no company or employees or anything. So it's not like, we have some entity that's going to get bankrupt and washed out. But at the same time, the more bounties or contributions or funding we can get, the further along we're going to get. But I think, and I truly believe the community and everybody, we're going to come up with solutions over the next couple of years that are really going to set the foundation for the long-term success of DigiByte well into the future. And I think, the bear market's not over. I think things might get a little rough, but out of all that trial by fire, we're going to emerge stronger.
I would just add, I think you're spot on there, Jared. I think what we're experiencing is not unique to DigiByte at all, but it is very much about anyone that's trying to progress in a truly decentralized fashion is running up against these sort of obstacles and has yet to kind of create the right path forward, right? And so it's a new endeavor that each of us volunteers in different places in our lives and different organizations trying to come together to build something that really doesn't benefit any of us individually, but benefits all of us at the same time with no real profit mechanism to do so.
That's very well said, and that's something I just want to highlight. I cannot believe how many amazing people I have met that are committed and working, almost daily in one way or another to help further along DigiByte in their own unique way, in the way that they see fit. That's something I didn't really think about, when all this first started. But it's like there's just these amazing people all over the world that are coming together because they believe in this idea of building something in the future. And I think that really gets to the core of why we're all here right now, in the middle of all the chaos that's happening around us. And I just can't thank you all enough that are here now, and everybody watching this.
Yeah, absolutely, and so it's awesome, Jared, that you stick to being part of the community and commit to help out in releases. It's really awesome to see. And if I'm not mistaken, that 7 different developers have worked on this current release, right? That's what I see in the GitHub at least. So
Yeah,
that's
at least that.
yeah,
I mean, but if you include, some of the work done that the Bitcoin devs have contributed, and some
yeah,
of those guys have mentioned us in the past, so they, we got to thank them because their work's there too. I mean, in that case, it's dozens or more.
yeah.
Um, and then the other, there's a lot of people coming together to help make this happen, and there's a lot of people that aren't even developers that are helping
Mm-hmm.
us with different processes and different things, and so there's at least 3 times that many behind the scenes, helping in various ways. And with this with this release, getting it out to everybody, there's a lot of people that are stepping up and helping, that we got to thank too. The contact exchange, mining pools, to make sure everybody gets upgraded, to help walk them through that. Thank you to everybody helping with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, some great points there from everyone, because it really, when we look at the involvement of the community, we're all from various backgrounds from all over the world, and we have different belief systems, but at our core, there's something about DigiByte that really resonates with us, and we see the potential in it and the value in it, and it's for a lot of us, it's beyond just speculation, where it's just like, oh, I'm going to buy it for pennies and then sell it for dollars. We're looking beyond that. It's more than just a money play. We want to reinvent money. We want to reinvent value. We want to level the playing field for just everyday people, and not just the people that exist at the top in our current system. We want everyone to participate, everyone to have a role, and everyone to contribute. And DigiByte really embodies that. And like I said, there's just a few others, of course, Bitcoin, Litecoin, and some of these other decentralized protocols that will survive and thrive going forward, simply because of the people that are willing to dedicate their time and energy and effort to make it possible, as opposed to some of these other closed off systems where it's heavily centralized, and you don't know who controls what, and it's there to enrich a few. DigiByte and some of these others, really stands apart and makes it very unique. So it's great to be a part of it in my own small way. I'm just a guy that makes videos. So, but we all have a role to play, and that's what makes it special. So it's very important to maintain that going forward. So it looks like we lost Johnny again. Hopefully he can jump back in, but we'll continue on here. Are there any thoughts going forward, as far as, what comes next, beyond, this release, and, looking at, potential algo swaps? Yoshi, what's on deck next as far as development goes?
We have several options moving forward, but so of course algo swaps would probably be the most exciting for the community. But we should not forget that we could also do a merge to the 0.23 or let's say version 23 of Bitcoin. That's also something we can do. Just making sure that the development stays up to date. But yeah, I would probably vouch for algo updates. because there are so many complaints in our community, and I think that's something we should really
Yeah.
tackle.
I see. There are some people indeed that do complain about that, but I also think that a lot of people see that it might not bring so much improvement as you would think, because we all know about the ASICs and so yeah. Well, a lot of times after you do this, then a year later, and maybe even during the development, because it's already known what algo is going to be used, the ASICs already might be out there, and then we are at exactly the same spot as we started before. And it, of course, it's a huge impact, changing of the algorithm, both in the code but also in the whole ecosystem and in the mining, etc. So there's a lot of risks, and if the benefits are not absolutely there, or they will only be for a small amount of time, because then we will be catched up by new algos, new ASICs, then yeah, then you have done all the work for nothing, and then we're in exactly the same spot as we are right now. And this is something that is starting to really dawn in the community as well, I think.
Yeah, there's the potential you could make things worse, trying to make them better, right? If there's, you swap out an algo with the intent of making it more decentralized, but in the process, of course, because it takes a lot of time to make such a change, and it's all open source, people can take that information and develop their own workaround to essentially centralize that algorithm to their own benefit. And as you said, there's many risks involved. I know, Jared, I know you participated in a Twitter space that the DigiByte awareness team hosted on the anniversary of DigiByte back in January, on January 10th. And I found it really interesting because you mentioned how every time we do a major upgrade or a hard fork, DigiByte gets attacked in some way. Could you expand on that a little more? Tell us, what type of attack is it? Do you have any ideas on who it is doing the attacking? Is it just some troll living in his parents' basement, or is it state actors, intelligence agencies? What are your thoughts?
I think it's a combination of all the above and various groups. Every time we've hard forked and soft fork, which we're like, what, 5, 6, 5? I can't remember. It's been so long, 9 years. Every time that the upgrade happens at the exact block or the update point, there's attempted 51% attacks. You can see the hash rates just spike. I mean, the data shows you. There's a lot that goes on because people want to see if there's some sort of weakness or something that we messed up on. And the thing about a blockchain is when you upgrade it, it's not like your typical app where you get a notification, oh, hey, there's a new update on the App Store, update at your convenience. When you do an upgrade to a blockchain that requires a hard fork, everybody has to update it once, right? And there's a lot, like we're talking 283,000 lines of code that are being changed. That is a lot to make sure that everything's up to par and jiving, and that's the need for these automated tests. I mean, there's almost as much code in those tests as there are the code that was changed. Actually, I think there's more lines of code in the tests than there are the lines of code that were changed. Um, so it's a very complex system. And I mean, blockchains are I think Bitcoin DigiByte is one of the, if not the most complicated code base there is that you can find on GitHub. I can tell you it's more complex than the Linux kernel. I think the Linux kernel, the core kernel, is only 300,000 lines of code, and we're at like what 1.6 million, 1.8 million now. Plus, you're dealing with a procedural versus a object-oriented code base. So there's a lot going on. But to answer that question about what's next, I think it really comes down to resources, and that's the important point that I've tried to reiterate, through videos and messaging is, we're all volunteers. I would love to be working on DigiByte full time, but unfortunately, I can't afford it because, unlike a lot of other founders out there, I didn't pre-mine myself, millions or billions of dollars. I've had to mine or get my own DigiBytes on my own, and I frankly don't have as much as I'd like to have, and I'm working on other things to pay the bills at the moment. Um, so, if we could get more funding or long-term funding or some sort of situation figured out and we bring in more people, it would be great to have people, a whole team working full time just on the core protocol, a whole team working on, like the developer stack. And then more importantly, at the end of the day, what's really going to give DigiByte, I think, the 10x movement is some sort of utility or application that is super easy, and the next thing you know, it millions of people are using. Right? I don't know what exactly that is. I've attempted multiple attempts myself over the years. Um, the hard part is if it's something financial, you just have such a, you know, I don't know how to say this diplomatically, but just overbearing regulations in the financial space that it basically makes competition downright impossible in the United States and other parts of the world, which is why a lot of crypto development's being pushed overseas. And it does not look like that's going to get better anytime soon. So for me, I think, creating that 10x moment, um, is going to be some sort of use case of blockchain technology in the cybersecurity realm. You know, um, whether for use in the metaverse, like in technology like DigiCorp is working on, in cybersecurity cases, or in terms of um, I guess thinking outside of the box. And I think that's what we're good at. I think 99% of crypto is just simply focused on money and price go up. I mean, it's almost ridiculous reading the crypto news at this point because it's literally all about, oh, the price is going to go here, the price is going to go there. Like I've kind of stopped reading all the main sites because that's 95% of the news is price speculation instead of, what can we do with this beautiful technology? And, like we were highlighting earlier, the people, this desire to create and to build a new world that we all benefit from equally. That's what this technology enables, and it's not just financial. So I think it comes down to resources and the motivation, and then also the education to helping people understand what we're trying to do and what we're trying to achieve and what we're working towards. And because the more people that come in, the start contributing and helping, the more that happens, and that's the beautiful thing about it.
Yeah, we just got to get out there and really promote it and inform and provide the education for the people out there. And you brought up another point though too about how everyone is just volunteering their efforts, and it has to be said, of course, because a lot of people they've been complaining about how long it's taken for the release of version 8.22. But the world got really weird in early 2020, and it has continued to stay weird, and will most likely get even more weird before it gets less weird. But that weirdness has a major impact on day-to-day lives. It's extremely disruptive, just even fulfilling your quote day job, right? And I think that impact is even greater when it comes to a volunteer venture. I know that's not just here within DigiByte, but with other aspects too. So I think it's important to point that out, that it's difficult to do these sort of things with just so much disruption in your daily life. You're trying to just make ends meet. You got to put food on the table and deal with all the craziness going on in the world. And on top of that, let me just volunteer my time and energy towards something that, like you said before, it's not something that benefits you as an individual, but collectively, we see it as something that can just really contribute to the betterment of humanity. So I know, that's something going forward that we as a community and as a foundation and all the other groups that are involved with DigiByte, whether it be the Alliance or the awareness team, to get more developers to either just, volunteer their time or to find resources that can fund the development, fund the bounties, to, give people like yourself, Jared and Yoshi and all the others that are working so hard behind the scenes, some, the financial compensation and incentive to put the work in that's needed to make these systems work. And it's going to be a tough slog, I'm sure, but we got to do it, because the other alternative is just to lay down and live and die by the CBDCs that the central banks want to shove down everyone's throat. And I think we can all agree that's bad for everyone except for them. And their time is up, and it's time for the rest of humanity to step up and have our turn. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and I think it's awesome to see that in over the years, I think the DigiByte community is only growing. Eh? So yes, sometimes things develop slowly. That's true, but if you look at the whole ecosystem, the whole global community, it's only growing. It's only getting bigger. So I've got really good hopes for humanity and for the decentralized projects going forward, because people more and more see how important it is for us to have that decentralized alternative available. So great work, guys, and I'm really looking forward to the next phase where we can roll out the new version of 8.22 and making sure that everybody does the upgrade, and we're all going to help out with that, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And just kind of on a final note to start wrapping things up here, the reason I'm still here after over 9 years since the day the blockchain was launched is because of people like you guys and everyone else in the DigiByte community. That's what keeps me motivated and keeps me going, because I know if there's other like-minded people out there that are, working to make the world a better place, and we've got a very unique and powerful tool to do that with the DigiByte blockchain in a lot of ways. That's going to keep me going, and as long as I can. So, I can't thank you guys all enough for being here, and everybody that's watching this, and make sure you download version 8.22 and run a node. Help grow the network and help secure the network. All you have to do is go to digibyte.org, download version 8.22, install it, and leave it running in the background on your desktop computer or laptop.
And power it with solar energy.
If you have the sun.
You have the sun, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, we'll put all the links down below so people can click on that and upgrade their versions to 8.22. So yeah, guys, let's go ahead and wrap this up, because this has been a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate all of you coming on today and sharing your thoughts and your time with myself and with our audience. I know everyone's going to greatly appreciate it. So let's do this again soon, whenever we make the time, because I love chatting with you guys. You guys are such experts, and you're so good at explaining it at, a level that, non-technical people like myself can really wrap our heads around. So I really appreciate you guys coming on. So thank you so much for joining us on Get Right with DigiByte, and let's do it again soon. You guys have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Cheers. Thank you.
Awesome.